Hi, my name is Belen Gomez.
And I'm Natalie Reeder.
Picture a packed college softball stadium, game tied during the bottom of the 7th inning. The star center fielder collides with her teammate from left field. She gets back up, dazed and confused, and insists she's okay to finish off the game. But in reality, she's not okay. Moments like this occur too often in college softball across the country. Concussions, shoulder problems, and other injuries are constantly pushed aside as athletes continue to fight for their spot in the game they love, even when their bodies are giving them constant signs of pain. When athletes return to the field prior to healing, they risk long-term injuries, chronic pain, and permanent damage throughout their body. Without strict regulations enforced by the NCAA, these early returns continue to happen all around the nation. Today I will explain the issue with current NCAA injury regulations, demonstrating why stricter protocols are necessary. Athletes often feel pressure to continue playing, even when they are still injured. Research reflects how college athletes regularly underreport their concussion symptoms. According to the Journal of Clinical Sports Psychology, results indicated that 45% of participants did not report their own suspected concussions during their present season. These responses revealed that the main reason for underreporting was due to the hit not being as severe as it may have seemed. Many athletes fear that they will lose playing time once they admit to their coaching staff that they are injured. However, Texas Health Resources Sports Medicine stated that returning to sports or any activity too soon after concussion can be extremely dangerous. If the athlete gets hurt again before allowing enough time to heal, the effects can be cumulative, risking permanent brain damage. By either returning too early or re-injuring, the athlete may experience a second impact that may potentially cause severe brain swelling. Not only could it result in worsened conditions, if not healed properly and having back-to-back concussions, one may face severe neurological issues that could alter their future. The National Library of Medicine stated that some of the life alterations include chronic traumatic encephalopathy, depression, and anxiety unrelated to disappointment about not being able to return to play, resulting in current NCAA rules being inconsistent and not enforced properly throughout all colleges. The latest release from the 2024 Concussion Protocol Guidelines from the NCAA are used differently by each individual college, meaning not every athlete receives the same medical care. According to the NCAA concussion guidelines, each athlete in school must follow a specific protocol checklist, including pre-participation assessment, a recognition and diagnosis of concussion in which the athlete must be removed from all practices, competitions, and other team needs, while also being evaluated by either the athletic trainer or a physician. Athletes must have a clinical assessment regarding their cervical spine, other traumas, skull fractures, intracranial bleeding, and other catastrophic injuries. However, some colleges tend to interpret these guidelines very loosely due to performance pressures, or even constant needs to win. As stated in the Journal of Athletic Training, most clinicians reported experiencing pressure to prematurely return athletes to participation after concussion. Specifically, 64.4% of responding clinicians reported that having experienced pressure from athletes, and 53.7% reported having experienced the same pressure from coaches. Now that we understand the severity of this problem, let's look at possible solutions. The NCAA must create and enforce stricter regulations that are medically driven from injury protocols for all institutions. The first step would be a requirement of independent medical professionals in which it removes all bias and from all performance pressures for injury evaluations. Second is to standardize mandatory recovery timelines for each athlete. For instance, all concussion injuries should require cognitive testing before allowing the athlete to return, while mandating that each of these athletes follow a step-by-step checklist to ensure that they can return to the field safely. The last step would be to increase concussion education amongst coaches and institutions, while also creating report transparencies for each individual colleges. Through mandatory and annual training for not only athletes, their families, and coaches about injury risk, everyone may be more aware of what symptoms may impact an athlete's life long term, while keeping each college accountable through annual reports on injuries and recovery durations for all student athletes. Imagine what college athletics could look like with stricter NCAA regulations. Let's think back to the first example of a softball player getting concussion mid-game. Rather than returning to the field and dizzy and confused, she would immediately be evaluated by independent medical training staff whether to confirm whether or not she could continue in the game. Her long-term well-being stays intact because of the rules that are designed to protect her and protect those in the same boat. Without stricter regulations, the opposite, an athlete of returning early could potentially suffer long-term damage or even deal with injuries that could have been prevented with simple rest. Stricter NCAA injury protocols are critical to protecting the health and futures of all college athletes. Without these regulations, athletes may continue to risk permanent damage to their own body by choosing to return early to the game. By supporting policies and campus initiatives, advocates for not only the athlete's well-being, but the standardized and enforceable injury protocols to protect their long-term health. Every single student athlete gives their all to the sport, and the NCAA must protect them with this same commitment. Thank you.